Man, it's the new year.
What do you want to know about everything? I'm trying to think, like, do I have anything profound to share with the world?
Of course you do. Of course you do. I have an idea. Let's start with the music, and then you can think about what you want to talk about. Music didn't change. I did all the new branding, but I didn't change the music.
Oh, here we go.
I kind of love it.
We're going.
We're going to do the whole thing, the music this time.
Oh, good. A dance party.
Laura Schneider, Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Is it still the new year?
You know,
what are we, like,
just
day
yesterday
8?
I said something about technology and it being 2019, and then I was like, oh, it's 2020.
How do you feel about 2019? Are you one of the people who's like, oh, good riddance, 2019, you sucked ass?
Well,
I mean, you had a lot of shit happen in 2019.
You know, here's the thing. I did have a lot of shit happen in 2019. I was glad to see it go because I'm excited for new things, but I learned so much last year and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't trade a whole lot. I would do some things differently maybe, but...
Tell me one thing you would do differently that you could have controlled.
One thing that I would do differently would be time management.
Oh, really?
I stretched myself so thin.
I was tired watching all the shit you were doing.
Yeah, it was. I hit a wall where I was not doing anything well for anybody, including myself. And I would like to. I'd like to not grind myself back into that place.
So, have you gone through the goal? I don't know, goal planning or kind of like mapping out 2020, even just a little bit. Like, how do you feel about your prep?
Well, I feel pretty good. I feel like I have 2 big priorities, and they're kind of my 2 big questions for the year. You know, if I registered to be a foster parent, and I am
shut up.
I am starting that process, and I'm really excited about it. But there are 2 questions for me really this year, and is it advancing me in my career, or is it moving me towards a more stable place to be a foster parent? And if the answer to at least one of those questions isn't yes, then I'm not prioritizing that right now.
That is so smart.
So
it's also not that it's not basic. It's super complex in terms because those are like 2 really big things. But what a great way to put that, at least through the very first filter of your prioritization, is like, is it going to serve one, if not both, of these 2 really huge life things?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Big thing.
That's fascinating. I have a lot, but I would say, let me think. I wrote down like probably 10 or 11 things that I kind of wanted to really make sure that I focus on in 2020. And some of them are like very binary, like they have an end, like it's going to happen. And some of them are just kind of like lifestyle changes or tweaks or whatever that I want to be mindful of. I think I can narrow down to like 3 really big things like yours.
Hit me. What are they?
So one of them is the outcome of the co-working space. And we're a little bit in flux right now, not in the sense that the business is not doing well. The business is doing great. But to get the business opened, I had some investors, and that is a little bit up in the air right now. And that actually started late last summer. And at first I was like shit in the bed over it. Like, what the fuck? Now I've really done a lot of work around trying to get the right fit for the financial, like for my financial situation to like make this what I want it to be. And I've got a lot of different scenarios and what that can look like and kind of put it all out into the universe. And, we'll see what happens. I'm doing a lot of work on behind the scenes to it, but I don't have it's like I've done all the legwork and now I'm kind of just leaving it up to the universe. So that's one. Number 2 is this podcast. I have gotten so energized by it over the holidays. Actually before then, but I kind of waited to do a lot of tweaking and stuff over the holidays. And next week I'm going to be in New York City, and that's going to be a game changer for this, I think.
I'm so excited for you.
So and I've got there's a big dream at the end of that, big that probably, I mean, I guess if all the stars aligned, it could happen in 2020, but it's kind of more probably 3 to 5 year.
Okay.
And then the third is love. I'm finally ready to like admit to the world that I'm ready to figure that shit out.
That's a big one.
Also, it's the first time, like all of my life, all of my relationships have occurred. And, it wasn't like I was single for a period of time, like I want a boyfriend or I want a husband. It was never that. Life just happened. That one's very hard for me to talk about because I've never been, I've done a lot of work to figure out like what I want that to look like. And it's not a person and it's not like super defined in terms of logistics as much as it is like in terms of like how I want to share my world and my life.
Right.
And it feels good and also frustrating because now that I'm kind of clear about what I want that to feel like, it makes me feel impatient. Like, for the first time in my life, I'm like, I have kind of a defined idea of what that is. And obviously it'll evolve. But that's frustrating now because now it's just like the
hurry
waiting
up and wait game.
Yeah, right? And I'm kind of over online dating. I have been for a while. Like, it's just weird. It's not weird. I don't mean to judge people who do it, but
no, it is weird. I mean, it is weird
for me.
It is definitely. I mean, you can have the good outcome, like that does exist. That possibility does exist, but you have to sift through all of the people who are like. My friend just said something about this the other day. It's like if your byline says "I love tacos," like. You're not funny enough to hang out with me or you're just like super bland. Like, that's not, it's like, I love trucks. I love Jesus. I love tacos. I mean, I love tacos. Like tacos are my love language, but like, I'm not going to like be impressed by your ability to put taco into a sentence with a period at the end of it. Like, I mean, the bar is kind of low these days sometimes with like, hey, oh good. You can like,
you eat tacos?
Construct
Great.
A sentence with grammatical clarity. That's good. Good for you. High five. I mean, but it is weird. Like it's a weird concept that you can just like order human beings up online. And it's not quite that way, but it does feel that way sometimes. Like we have access to do that. We can make those choices to pick whatever app we want to be like, this is what I need, or this is what I want.
It feels like a lot of work to me.
It's so much work.
I have gone on and off an app here or there for the last couple of years, like a handful of times. And, I go on for like a month or two.
Yeah.
And I'm just not enthusiastic about it. And then it's like somebody will text. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm working. I don't have time. And then when I do have time, it's like, oh, you didn't text me fast enough. It's just so much work. Like I need an assistant, a personal assistant just to manage
your dating life.
And then I'm like, is it really worth me going through all of this? Like versus, I mean, you know me, I'm a person who gets people energetically in the sense that like you walk into a room, you made me laugh or you made me smile or you said, I don't know, it's just hard to get all of that on an app for me. I don't know. And maybe I should give it more of a chance, but the truth is I'm okay waiting for it to just fall in my lap.
Yeah.
But the challenge to that also is that, my headphone thing is like all loosey-goosey here. I have to go do things, to places.
Like, you can't just sit at home in your soft pants, which is like what I would prefer to do.
Yeah. So I guess this like trip next week maybe is a good opportunity in New York City to, I don't even know if that's a good opportunity. Like, so great. So I meet somebody 4,000 miles away. Then what?
Well, you could relocate your life for a relationship that you will no longer be in if you want to follow my course of action, which you know what? I still say, everything. I am in Nashville for a reason and it feels really good. Like it took me a long and count to land there. But, I don't know. I feel like I'm not one of those everything happens for a reason person particularly, but, I do find that if I just kind of let it be whatever it is, I find purpose in it.
Yeah.
So it's the long way around, I guess maybe, but I also kind of decided I'm done chasing the same things. Like I don't want to, I spent enough time on my phone and my computer for my own work and for the work that I'm doing for other people that like, it isn't that appealing to me to just swipe on a computer screen or a phone screen even more than I already am.
Yeah.
And my priorities are different. I mean, I know I'm in a different place of life, but like, I am done waiting on the right person to chase my dreams. Like, I want to be a mom. I want to run a successful business. I kind of already gave one of those things up already and kind of restarted that process. And now I'm restarting both processes, and the business stuff is working out. It's starting to feel better. But like, yeah, I think for me, 2020 is like, what am I prioritizing and how am I holding the line? Because I am historically a person that will put everybody else's needs before my own. Right. And I will probably always be that way, but I'm staking a claim to my own needs this year. Right. Like, I want to be really intentional about how I'm spending my time, how I'm using my words, how I'm pursuing work, what I'm saying yes to and what I'm saying no to, so that I can say yes to the stuff that really brings me joy and the work that makes an impact. Like, I want to be doing more of that. I don't want to sit back and be like, I didn't do the stuff that is really important to me because I was so distracted by all of the little other things that didn't need to be priorities. Right. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
So I feel like sometimes I think of you and I'm like, where I am in this podcast journey feels a little bit like where you may have been. Maybe, how long have you been in Nashville now?
I have been in Nashville a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe a year and a half ago, when you kind of embarked on that journey, where I'm like, oh, there's a couple of doors that have opened, and I don't know what's on the other side of those doors, but they're very interesting to me. So I'm just kind of like walking through, and when I sit down and I think, what is this actually going to look like? If I try to get practical and be like, can this be a career, or can I monetize this, or can I make a living off of it, or whatever all of those stupid questions are. I get really tied up in knots over it. I'm like, because I can't see that yet. Yeah. But what I can see is how great it's making me feel, and all these opportunities. And most importantly, not just opportunities for me, but opportunities to connect people. Yeah. And that's where I'm finding my sweet spot. That's why Keller Street is what it is, because I like to make connections and be connected. Yeah. And the same thing with the podcast.
Yeah. Well, your podcast is making connections, not just in this side of the world.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Does this have to do with the text that you sent me a few weeks ago? You're like, oh my God, I got to tell you something.
Yeah. I was like, Danielle, call me. Yeah. No, I mean, I was on here, September? Was it September?
That seems like so long ago.
No, maybe it was August. And then I don't know. We did a shoot together in August, and then maybe we did the podcast in September or something like that. Somewhere on like the 2 to 3 week turnaround time.
Yep.
And no, I had a conversation with a musician from North Carolina, Lynn Kuntz, and she had been referred to me by Amy Spees, who is somebody I've been working with in Nashville too. And she contacted me and she reached out, and we had a phone call about doing photo work for her new album. And in that conversation, she had said, I got your information from Amy. I looked at your website, your social media stuff. I listened to the podcast that you were on. And I was like, what? You did what? And I was so floored by that. And I was like, my God, like just in that moment thinking about like, it is such a small world. And like, there is something really beautiful about how like digital media can be fluid and can like kind of can travel distances that like not even we realize. It's like you're throwing the pebble in the pond, and it's like, my God, like that ripple of that. Like she was like, I was really impressed with how you talked about your work, and I was really like, that really matters to me, and that makes me feel like that's a really good fit. And like, she was influenced to hire me to do her album work because of what she heard on your podcast in Petaluma.
That makes me feel so good.
Yeah. And it just was this really beautiful moment where I was like, my God, every world just collided. It just collided. And like in the most beautiful way. Like
I have heard that. First of all, I'm so grateful because out of everything, that is the most important thing for me. Like that feels the best. It's like somebody heard something that either I or a guest said and was moved by it in one way or another. And I've had a handful of guests just recently in the last few months tell me that they did a podcast and then some sort of collaboration happened after because of the podcast. They started doing work together, or they were introduced and they started another project. And I'm like, oh God, that feels so good to just connect people.
Well, it's fun to be back here to kind of have that follow up, to be like, hey, like this, it made a difference. It made an impact. And like, sometimes you put that stuff out into the world and you get no feedback. Like I just submitted a wedding to a client that I was terribly behind on the deadline for that. And I wasn't, I am totally confident in my own work, but like, you sometimes send photos and you don't hear anything back from the people, and they love them most of the time, but sometimes you just never hear